All right. Thanks for being here today. We're here with Captainese, who is a podcaster, traveler, thinker, commentator. Maybe let's start with travel. What are your lessons learned from traveling?
Lessons. Ooh, that's a really good question. Well, that I have to be safer, that's for sure. The way I pick my travel destinations is I talk to ChatGPT a lot, right? So I ask him, what are some cities that you shouldn't visit? And he gives me like a list of cities. And I and I literally choose from that list because I'm looking for a culture shock, if that makes sense. I need
Hmm.
adventure. Okay. Um, and yeah, I've got myself into some situations that made me think, maybe I should pick something a little bit safer. But I don't regret like any of it, honestly. Any of it. I haven't been to like Afghanistan or some stuff. But I have been to some places that, especially some cities that one would consider like a no-go zone. Um, and the lessons are, don't do that again. And the lesson is also, people in these cities are not that much different from you, and they think the same way. And I've made many friendships with a lot of people around the globe. And it really helped me just build a bridge between like certain differences that, or stereotypes, I guess you could say. People are the same, we're the same. We are just a product of our environment. And those were the two biggest lessons, actually. Yeah.
So when you're looking for a place that ChatGPT says not to go, it's based solely on perceived danger, or is it based on maybe there's not a lot to see there?
No, I think it's a crime rate thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the most dangerous cities, they go by the crime rate. So like, I think, how like a ratio of homicide to 100,000 people, something like that, and then a ratio of burglary to 100,000. And I correlated that to the culture shock, which is in fact the case. So maybe I should stop doing that in the future. But so far, I do not regret it. I have to say, this is not good advice for people listening and considering traveling alone. But hey, I'm being honest. It is what it is. That's what I do.
Does it match up pretty well with when you look at the stats versus when you get there? I don't, maybe it's a little biased by having looked up the stats and know that it's supposed to be dangerous, but does it feel like that when you get there?
Actually, after a while, when you travel alone, you get a certain sense of, it's like a sixth sense, where you
Hmm.
can just tell something isn't right. You know, um, People who commit a lot of crimes get that sense. Actually, it's a sixth sense. It's an instinct, and I can feel when I'm in a certain area, even if everything seems nice. It's almost as if it's just too quiet. I remember walking in Sao Paulo, and I had that feeling of, Jesus Christ, something isn't right, and I looked back, and I saw somebody following me, and then I took a few turns, and then after a while they were still following me. So I actually stopped, and I looked back, and then they went away right away. But it's an instinct that you develop as time goes on. And I mean, I assume it's the instinct that police has, or other law enforcement and the criminals. It's just something that it's undescribable. And hey, and if you have any shoplifters out there, they would know. Like a long-term shoplifter, when they enter the store, they have that feeling, "Ooh, something isn't right. I'm gonna put the stuff back." So that's the feeling that you get as a solo traveler. Yeah.
Okay. It's that heightened sense of vigilance. I was a trooper in Virginia for 14 years and then some years in the military and some other police type training on the West Coast. But it was a transition going from policing to where the great part about policing was you could take action. It wasn't are you going to take action? It's you are going to act when you see something wrong, and hopefully you got some training in how to act. So it's going to go better than if you didn't and you're just a regular person. But making that transition back from
Mhm.
police to regular citizen did take a little getting used to because you have other considerations, but you still keep that heightened sense of vigilance to a point. It's probably worn off now, being some years away from doing it, but there's still things I noticed that I don't think I would notice had it not been for that training.
Hmm.
When you travel, do you keep journals about it or pictures, or how do you remember where you've been?
I do very few pictures actually, and the ones that I do make, I make sure that they are very meaningful. I wouldn't take a picture of something that I can find on Google. So it's either with someone that I met, it's like a special place, and I take a selfie there. I love videos, honestly. So I'm very selective about where I take the photo. Um, and I was journaling for a while, but I stopped doing that. But I have to do it again because these journals are the best thing ever when you read them, especially like 5 years after you did the best trip of your life. You're reading it and you're like, oh damn, that was such a good time. So I'll start doing that again. Yeah.
Nice. I imagine you could probably get a lot of that feeling from the pictures too. And then depending on how you take them, like with our traveling, you take the pictures and it puts the pin on the map if you're using Apple. I'm not sure how the other ones work, but you can
Yeah.
look at the globe and see all the places you've taken a picture. And sometimes I would take a picture just of the floor in the hotel room if I was like, let me put this on that, so I can look on the map and see, yeah, I've been there. I've been there. Like, what kind of coverage do you have of the country or continents and things like that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
travel with,
Um.
if you don't, if you don't take that many
Actually.
pictures, I guess you don't travel with a big camera. You just have a phone,
Oh.
maybe.
I don't have a camera at all, actually, just doing with the cell
Oh,
phone. Um, can I ask you something, actually?
sure. Go ahead.
Alright, so, but before you said, because you were a policeman, did you find yourself ever being suspicious, like, about people in general? Have you ever found yourself, like, maybe even paranoid in a way? Or have assumptions that turn out to be just basic, like, um paranoia, well, not really paranoia, but you know what I mean, like just just being suspicious of people.
You probably develop a sense of hypervigilance just because you see people at their worst a lot, and then
Yeah.
you don't see regular people. Like, policing, my thing was, you look for trouble,
Mhm.
be nosy, solve problems. That's policing. So I think you just, if you're programming an AI, it matters the information you put in. So as a person that's policing, you're
Mm.
programming yourself through all the experience you have. And if you're having a heightened sense a lot because you're worried about something happening to you or the public or what you're supposed to do with your job, then I
Mhm.
think that's, that hypervigilance can maybe get to the point of paranoid, where if you can't go to a restaurant if you have to sit with your back to the door. I still don't sit with my back to the door, but I
Hmm.
think that's just good advice for everybody. But I don't think I'm paranoid, but maybe a person that's paranoid would say they don't think they're paranoid. I mean,
Right,
you try to,
right. Well, and after all, people only call you when things go wrong, right? Like nobody calls the police where everyone is happy and they're celebrating.
yeah, it does get
Yeah.
you to meet people, new people every day that don't want to talk to you.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. Like, if you take those personality tests, I think it's a Myers-Briggs test where it gives you a letter like INFJ, internal, I can't remember what the N was, feeling, judging. That's what I
Yeah.
was before policing. But then when I think about policing, or maybe after it, it's more of the XXFJ, where it's a mix of extrovert and introvert, because you do start a lot of conversations because that's just what you
Yeah,
do if you're doing traffic enforcement or investigating something. You- So it's an it's
that's
an
interesting.
interesting life. I'm glad I did it. It was the best job I ever had, and I would recommend it to people that are good. Or yeah, I don't want bad people being police, but good people. That would be good.
Yeah, well, especially the bad people, because I assume that they would play like a lot of mind games and a lot of manipulation. Like even as a good cop, if you're trying to get information that you know is true, but the person is just not going to give it to you, you ask questions in a certain way that makes it more likely than they'll tell you. And I can just assume what it's like when somebody is a bad person and they become a cop. Like they can be vicious, really. It can be
Yeah.
very destructive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is easy to twist things around, and you learn that through interview techniques or just what you know of talking to people. I usually tried to talk to people like it was my parents or somebody I cared about. So even the
Hmm.
worst criminal, there's no sense in treating them poorly. I mean, you might want to, but why? It's just like cursing at people, or you want to calm the situation down. Even if you're shooting at someone, you want to calm the situation down. But it's easy to twist things around. A good example is if you're talking to a person that you think is a drug dealer and you say, well, have you trafficked drugs or have you dealt drugs before? And they're like, no, I've never done that. And you go, well, have you taken cough syrup before? Yeah, yeah. Have you ever poured cough syrup for someone else and then given it to them? Yeah. Well, is cough syrup a drug? Yeah, it's a drug. All
Right.
right. So it's a drug. You've given it to someone else. You're a drug dealer. Tell me about the kilo of cocaine in your trunk. Yeah. So
Well,
there's things like that. But yeah, it's a good job. And then you meet a lot of good people that you're working with. I never saw huge corruption as far as treating the public bad. I saw a lot of unequal treatment within police agencies of how they treat their employees. So
mm,
that's tough because you're doing a job where you want things to be as fair as possible. So why not treat people as fairly as possible? But yeah,
right.
it's a
Right.
good job. Good job.
Yeah.
For your traveling, how many continents have you gone to?
Oh, I think I did all of them. Well, I haven't been
Oh,
to Antarctica, but yeah, but the rest I've done. Yeah, they're in the book.
does it make you miss home, or are there places that you think you would like to live in, even if it's just for a time, more than where you live now?
Hope. Well, it makes me appreciate, first of all, our safety in this country. This country is very safe, man. You can walk around at 2 a.m. like everywhere, and you're going to be just fine. And then it made me appreciate our tax system because here, right now, I have 4% tax. So I just pay 4%, which is incredible. Well, I mean, we can't compete with Dubai, but anyway, there are places that I would like to live. Absolutely. One of them is New York. New York, I will actually relocate there at some point. Um, and that's pretty much it. Like the rest is nice for 2 weeks, but then it's like, yeah, but shit. I mean, my home is way better. New York beats it by a long shot. Yeah.
When was the last time you were in New York?
Mm, a little bit over 2 years ago. And I'm headed there in 20 days. So,
Oh, okay. It'll be interesting to see how much it's changed.
have you heard of the anti-homeless architecture?
I haven't.
Oh, really? Okay. That's what they're doing in New York. So, they will build benches and just make the whole street homeless not friendly so that the
Hmm.
homeless people cannot sit on it, they cannot lay on the ground. So that's how they try to battle homelessness, I guess, It's how you tackle the consequences instead of the actual problem, but, look it up, you can Google it. It's called
Yeah.
hostile architecture, building
Okay.
things in the city to make it anti-homeless. So it's called anti-homeless streets. I don't know where the
Right.
homeless people go, but they build it because they don't want them on the streets. It's
All
pretty
right.
bad, honestly.
I have seen some pictures of that. It's kind of like how you would keep pigeons off of things, except it's for people.
Yes, yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And the answer to where do the homeless people go is not here. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
that's what they're
that's the
looking for.
answer. Not here. There you go.
Just
Yep.
move them around.
Yep.
Huh. So last time you were in New York, then that was after the lockdowns. It's kind of recently after the lockdowns. Was that a lot different than Slovenia?
No, maybe it was more than 2 years. It was just before the lockdowns.
Oh,
Just
okay.
before the lockdowns. And I know New York was just locked, right? They were
Yeah.
they weren't playing. Yeah, they took this really seriously. Mhm.
How was it in your country?
Mm. Pretty classic, kinda like a boiling frog effect, you know? At first, you couldn't, well, you couldn't go to certain places, and people said, "Alright, that makes sense," and then you couldn't go to, well, the clubs, pretty much closed down, and people were like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Then you had to wear a mask at certain places. That made sense, right? And then before we knew it, you couldn't enter a freaking shopping mall at a certain point, and people were like, "Well, when did we get here?" Yeah, little by little. That's the strategy, right? So yeah, we were pretty close. Like we were locked up, man. We were locked up until people just didn't care anymore. And then after we stopped caring, it just went away magically. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. People got bored of it.
People got bored of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting for you to see how New York has changed from like 2019, 2018 timeframe to now.
Really? Tell me about it. I want to hear.
I haven't been up there for a few years, but I was maybe before 2015, around the 2015 timeframe. And then it was probably in the 90s before that. In the 90s, I don't remember,
Mm.
maybe the 80s. I don't remember so much about it because I was, younger, but it it was okay last time I was up there in the teens. And I think now just seeing the things on the news, I have some family that lives up there too, and just it seems more unreasonable. So maybe
Oh,
that's a nice
Jesus
way to say it.
Christ.
Yeah. So
Unreasonable.
maybe
But okay, unreasonable in what way? Like specifically?
I think one of the things they're getting ready to do is cut trash collection by 40%. So when I was up there, there was a lot of trash on the street, just like bagged, getting ready to get picked up. So now I just wonder, with that many more people, if you're talking about the city and not the whole state, but just New York City, that if you reduce trash collection, that seems like it's going to have a rapid negative effect on living conditions. And then you put that many more people there. So it's interesting.
Do you know do you know what's the rationale behind this? Because this is quite a move. I don't see why would they do that?
I think it's money. They say they don't have the amount of money to keep the goods and the services up with
Mm,
all of
okay.
the, I guess, what would you call them? Immigrants, illegals,
Mm. Mhm.
whatever's coming into the
Mhm.
city, the population of the
Mhm.
city.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I mean, it seems as if everything is coming into the city, you know? In Slovenia, we have the same problem. We let everyone in. And I think empathy is good, right? It's good, but there's only so much homeless people you can take into your house before your children start suffering, really. And I'm glad that they at least have a reason for this move, you know, like doing less trash picking because and even if it's like look, even if it's not true, you know, sometimes I appreciate the government just giving a reason, you know, like look,
Mm,
lie to me. That's fine, but at least make an effort to do that, you know, because the standards are so low for the government, even in my country now. Just give us something, you know, to believe, even if it's not true. Don't just do something and not even make an effort to explain why you did it, because then it's really senseless and it's confusing. Okay, because it's one thing to have people who are not trusting, but it's the other thing to just be confused and be like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like I don't even know. So yeah, well, but it's bad either way. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna see that in 20 days. I'll remember to pay more attention to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that at least if they give you an excuse or a reason, it shows they're thinking. They might not be thinking correctly, but they're thinking about something, and it helps start a conversation of, do you really think that this is the thing you should be doing for this, and this? And then
Yes.
maybe they can think of another reason, or maybe it starts to open their eyes and they go, oh, yeah, we shouldn't be doing this. But I feel like if you're in a bad government, that they know it's bad and they're just doing it anyway. But I don't know, maybe
Hmm.
there's some people that just don't know how to think and shouldn't be in government anyway. I don't know. Maybe less government is the answer.
Yeah. 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 And the same example is I don't know if any of United States did that as well, but here in European Union, all new sold electric vehicles, well, all vehicles sold from 2035 on will have to be electric. And what I found most disturbing is they didn't even explain where the number comes from. And so we had to draw our own conclusion, and my personal conclusion is, well, 2035 is when when the president, or the person in the government, whoever, is not going to be responsible for the consequences because they're not going to have their term anymore. So it's long enough so that they don't have to answer for their actions. I mean, this is my explanation. We have no explanation, honestly, no explanation. And people are wondering, like, well, how is this going to work? Like, based on what numbers? Show me the calculation. No one did it. They just picked a number, and people are confused, and people are very disappointed here, honestly, because like, we're really struck by this rise in electricity prices. Um, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I saw your podcast with the is it called the Sweaty Penguin,
Oh yeah,
where you
yeah.
were
The climate
talking
change.
about
Yeah.
the electric vehicles and things. Yeah, I think that is, you put it far enough out in the future to where you can say, I'm making change now and this is how I'm doing it. I don't have to explain
Mm,
anything more than that. And then
mhm.
however it happens is the next person's responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
It's
exactly. And I guess the goal is to have like a program for your campaign that is as abstractive as possible, because you don't really want to get too much into details, because maybe you don't have it all figured out, maybe you don't have a strategy, which is like fundamental, but anyway, you want to keep it abstractive because then you can hump on the good nugget. So you can say, we will build a better future. Okay. We will build a better healthcare system. All right. We will make a better schooling system. And people are happy with that because they want it. But a lot of times people just forgot to ask, yeah, but how though? How exactly are you going to do it? And the devil's in the details. So they like to keep it abstractive and long enough into the future. So yeah, that's how you win elections after all, right?
Yeah, they just tell you what to think, not how to think. And it
Yeah.
would be better if they didn't know the answer to at least, and regular people can do this too, is just say, I'm not sure, but this is what I would do to find out. So it, I'm not, I think elections have turned into more popularity contests than contests about ideas of how to deal with issues.
Well, I
It's,
actually I recently did an episode. It's not uploaded yet, but I did it with someone who actually teaches people and teaches politicians how to win elections. So it's a strategy, right? And there's multiple strategies that you can take. One of them is basically you do it in a way, well, the same way that you would market a product as a company. So you have to put yourself in people's face. I think it's like 3 times a week, something like that. You interact with them at least 3 times a week. So it's all about marketing, and it's all about finding that golden nugget. What's the problem of the nation? here in Slovenia at the moment is it's immigration, right? That's the big deal. So the golden nugget is immigration. In your program, you have to put a lot of effort into really pumping this immigration issue and then put yourself in contact with your voter 3 times a week. So if you're really good with these two things, it's pretty much more like people are going to vote who they know best, not necessarily who actually is best because people are lazy. They don't want to do the research, you know. Nobody really wants to read all the programs. So it's all about marketing honestly and how you can sell yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
You have a podcast where you talk about politics, uh, educational things, and it's fun to say it controversy, but controversy. How'd you decide to start a podcast?
Oh, well, that's you see, I did it because I was bored in my life. I wish I had a better answer, but I I didn't have anything to do and I started doing podcasts. I have no social circle. I don't have any friends. I do not have a relationship. God, that sounds pathetic, but I spend a lot of time reading and thinking, really. And I can think about things like to an unhealthy extent.
Mm.
Um, I just throughout my day, as I go about my day, what I do is I train, workout is big for me. I listen to podcasts and I read. And I'm just like I'm thinking throughout the day. So like having this platform is something that I can really put my thoughts into. And communicating with guests on my podcast, a lot of times that's like the only communication that I have that day. Right. So this is my social circle. Gosh, it sounds so horrible, dude. But it is what it is. So that's why I started and that's why I continue to do it.
What equipment did you use when you first started?
I think it was this microphone. It was a webcam. And I plan on well, I have a lighting now, I guess, so that's new. My equipment is pretty cheap, I'm not gonna lie. And I plan on investing into a better mic. I don't know, because I sound like I'm reporting from a cave. And the first camera it make me look like I'm in Minecraft or something. So, yeah, it's the equipment is pretty cheap. It's good enough for now, but as time goes on, I'll invest more money and buy better stuff.
Yeah, with microphones, I've found that you can spend a whole lot and it only sounds a little bit better than one that's an
Mm.
okay price. So you just
Mhm.
pick one you like and go with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Sounds fine. How'd you pick a lion picture for the backdrop?
Actually, that was just there, honestly. When I moved here, it was just there, that photo. And I was looking around my apartment. By the way, I'm a minimalist, so not a lot, there's not a lot going on in this apartment, just things that I need. And I was like, Gosh, I don't have any decoration. I have nothing." And I was like, "Oh, but I have a photo of a lion. So I'm gonna put myself here, in front of this lion because it's just like it's pretty empty." Mhm.
Hmm. Have you named the lion?
No, 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 it's not
Uh,
named. It's not named, no.
it's a good story that it's here when I started. I like that. I thought it was going to be something more along the lines of Proverbs 28:1. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. I thought it was going to be something like that.
Ooh,
And
damn,
being in front of
ah,
it gives you like a Tina Turner look. So that's always a plus. So it's
oh,
good.
fuck yeah, like a white Tina Turner? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
use that line, but, I mean, there's 2 ways that as a podcaster and as a guest, you can answer questions. One is, what would what would sound interesting to people. A
Mm.
lot of times that's the stories, it's the passion, it's the motivating statement, right? That people are like, wow, like maybe I should do it as well. But then there's the other side, which is something that a lot of podcasters and guests neglect because maybe it doesn't give them views, and that's the truth, right? Because look, your life is only going to be as interesting. Okay, so and a lot of and I see it with my guests as well, like I will ask them something and it's gonna be, even if it's just like a by the way question, they will give me what they think the audience wants to hear. Look, and especially as you start, no one gives a fuck. Okay. And I think what people are missing is the answers that are real, because you know, because it only takes a second for someone to take, "Ooh, this is this really it? Like, is she for real?" That's all it takes for that person to lose all the trust into everything you're saying. And as I started this podcast, I told myself, "Look, this podcast is something where I'm only going to be telling the truth. This is going to be like this is going to be nothing but the truth." And yeah, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm not
I like
sure where I
truth.
went with this, but yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, it's good. Truth,
Yeah.
honest, if you will. Yeah, honesty is good. It's good. How did you choose the format for your show? I know the ones I've seen were in the first part of the show you have like upcoming, and then you get into the show. How'd you choose the
Mm.
not only the format of how you set it up, but how you were going to make the show feel? I don't know. I guess that's it.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, I looked at the analytics, which you can do as a YouTuber, and I noticed that if I have this particular intro, and if I don't have this particular intro, it makes like the effect is the same. People are like, it's not better if I do it, and it's extra work put into the editing. And
Mm.
actually, I do spend quite a bit of time editing because I don't have an editor yet. So it look if it's not improving the viewership, then I throw it out. So now I do have to do the intro though. The intro is important because the first 30 seconds of your video are the most important part of your video ever. This is where the ads are going to be when you get monetized. And I think you'll get monetized pretty soon. I'm getting there as well. This is the ad placement, right? So the more people you can keep in the first 30 seconds, the better your video is going to do. The more it's going to get pushed out. So intro in the first 30 seconds, and then the intro after that is not as important. So I just jump into the episode.
When you were putting the idea together for the show, did you talk to people about it, or were you more looking at videos and reading about how to do podcasting?
Actually, I'm the type of person that just jumps in the water,
Mm.
and then I learn how to swim. So I just started doing it. I think you have to start before you're ready. So it at the beginning, I'm sure the videos suck. Actually, the first few videos I took them down because it was just too embarrassing. But you start and somehow you get around. You improve something every single time, even if it's just 1% improvement. After 3 years, man, that's gonna add up. So I just started with no plan in mind, and then I kind of see where I fit in best and what works for me.
I've looked at your podcast on Spotify, and some of them are video podcasts, like the more recent ones. And then the first ones that I looked at on Spotify, I didn't look at them on YouTube, are just the audio. Are there also video ones for those that are on YouTube?
Yes, the videos are on
Okay.
YouTube. The reason is because I didn't even know Spotify that I even could upload a video to Spotify. So the video started when I figured it out. Yeah.
Okay. I found after, because I do YouTube and Spotify, and setting up the YouTube account was much more involved than the Spotify one. And
hmm
I'm glad I did the YouTube one first, because maybe if I had done Spotify first, I wouldn't have gone through all the checks and everything you have to with the YouTube one.
True.
I
Yeah.
do worry. I do worry about getting kicked off of YouTube, or them, flagging a video because somebody says something that somebody doesn't agree with. And then I thought Spotify would be a little better for that. I'm sure every platform has its limits, but I do like Spotify. The one
Well,
thing about Go ahead.
Uh, Rumble, have you I mean, are you uploading to Rumble?
I'm not. Are you?
Okay. Um, I will start. I had a podcast 2 days ago with do you know, Jordan Peterson?
Yep. Well, I don't know
Not
him
him, but
personally, but I know of him.
okay, his wife was on my podcast, Tammy Peterson, and she has her own podcast, and she said, and she is like big on Rumble. So, and I assume that that's because, she also has like controversial topics. So sooner or later, I'm gonna start uploading on Rumble as well. Yeah, because like I don't want to make this my full-time career just to get it shut down in a day, for things that I
Yeah.
said that I mean and that are true, especially, at least ban me for lying, Jesus Christ. So yeah, Rumble. Start uploading there. I'll do it as well.
Hmm. All right. I'll look into it. I looked at Rumble when it first started, and then I guess there wasn't a lot of content on there then, and I wasn't doing podcasting. So I kind of fell back into
Mm,
YouTube, but I guess that's what the machine wants is for you to go to the big one so it can tell you what to think.
yeah, there you go.
When you set up your place to record your podcast, is it how'd you go about that?
Mm, Honestly, I didn't really want to complicate that much. My thing is there's nothing you can do to improve the viewership if you haven't put everything you have into the content. So like every time I think about, how could I improve the lighting? How could I improve the camera? How could I improve things? What to do with my background? I said, okay, take this time and now spend it on thinking about how you can make better content. And like that's going to be different for everyone. Like for me, it was maybe do a better research on the guests, maybe send out a few invitations for guests that are probably not going to show up, but they're like big whales, that I could get on my podcast. Spend time on that. And for me, it was also spend time on just improving your English because a lot of times there's a word that just doesn't come to my mind right away. Like I know the Slovenian word because it's my native language and the English word
Mhm.
not so much. So I had problem with that, and I just put all my effort into that. I'm not really I still do that. I'm not thinking about almost anything else except the microphone. So, almost 0 effort into the place where I record, honestly.
I mean, I think that speaking from a viewer side, if you can't think of the English word for it, just say the Slovenian.
Yeah,
I,
fuck
I
it.
think it's going to be okay. I think people will like it. It has a certain je ne sais quoi, you know.
It does. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Especially if you're going with that truth and honesty, just lay it out there. And then maybe it'll take
Mhm.
15 words to explain the one word in a different language, but it's worth it. It's worth it. People can
Oh,
learn
it
too.
does, sometimes it does. It does, but I usually just say, I fuck it, just say the sentence without a word and then, make the best of it, I guess. Yeah.
That works too, I
But
guess.
my English, can you tell from the way I speak that I'm not from America? Because I'm really trying to like get the accent as close to my viewers as possible.
I mean, we talked about that before when before we started recording, which was that's the great
Mhm.
thing about America is you can't tell by
Oh
looking
yeah.
at someone, listening to them, or looking at their name if they're American or not, or maybe even not a citizen, just in America. So
Mm.
you're fine. I understand you, no problem. I don't have when I look at your podcast or listen to your podcast, I'm not thinking I can't understand this. So it's fine. You're doing good.
Well, it's the
You
problem
don't
for
you
Indian people, right? Indian people, when they speak, you can tell right away they're Indian. I have this trading platform that every time I need customer service, an Indian picks up and immediately because I have trouble understanding Indians when they talk English. It's just something about their accent. It's too strong. It's too strong. And I'm not a racist. I'm not, really. But if I have a person
Really,
that
really,
picks up the
I'm not
customer
racist.
service,
Really.
really, and I just ask if I can give someone who's not an Indian because look, I have like it's important when I call them because it's about trading. Like I'm making money with this. So
Mm.
you better make it quick. I don't have the time to think about being politically correct. Don't connect me with an Indian because I won't understand him. So yeah. Yeah, I mean the French are kind of bad as well, but the Indian accent are just man, it's vicious. It's
Well,
vicious.
the French were cool with Napoleon. That's a great quote. Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
Napoleon, I can't remember the whole thing, but something about when French was cool. That's back with Napoleon. The with the Indian accent, I like it when you get the person that looks like they're of Indian descent that has the British accent. That's interesting to me. I
Ooh.
like that. There's a lot of actors that are like that. And then
Yeah.
because of this sci-fi series called The Expanse, it's a TV show and it's also books. It's books before it was a TV show. And
Mm.
they talk about settlement in the universe or in the solar system. And because there's a lot of Indians that have migrated to Texas, Mars was terraformed or settled by mainly people from Texas in this story. And so they look Indian and sound Texan, and that's fun. So yeah, I'm okay with the
Texan, that's how you
challenge of oh,
you said you said French people were cool with Napoleon. You know, I feel like Chinese people, for example, mm, ever since Jackie Chan movie came out, they became more confident. It's
huh,
I don't know. I just feel like all of a sudden, before they were like shy, don't touch me, I cannot fight, like and now after Jackie Chan movie, they were man, they were pumped. They were full of confidence. Like, yeah, we can fight. See, you know,
maybe. I mean, Jackie Chan's cool, but Bruce Lee, I mean, that was before Chan, right?
or Bruce Lee. Yeah, yeah, Bruce
Yeah,
Lee as well.
an
Yeah.
American, birth certificate and everything. Hmm. All right, so accents. No, your accent's good. It probably helps more on the American audience than it does anything else, I would think.
Oh, that's good. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm
Yeah.
targeting American audience because
Because of the market.
it's the CPM. The like a cost per mil. I don't know if you if,
Mm-hmm.
if you know anything about. Okay, so yeah, so when
Yeah.
you get
I went to business
monetized,
school.
the oh yeah, well there you go. American, if your viewership is mainly American, it's like a way bigger number as opposed to from some other countries. So it's definitely a good decision to target American viewership and German. I see Germany has a big CPM as well. I think it's maybe even the highest one, but unfortunately I cannot speak German. Um, so it is what it is.
When I initially heard your podcast, that's what I thought. It was you were German. So
In
how
German,
about that?
yeah. Mhm.
That's what an American thinks, or this American. Maybe China would be good too because that's got a big market. But you might. I think what makes America great as far as for the market is the amount of people, and it's going to be that freedom of speech thing. I mean, even though
Mhm.
there's still some restraints on what you can say versus what platform you're on, that freedom of speech is really a measure for a country. Which brings me to a question I didn't ask about travel, but what is if you had to think of one question that you ask yourself or you ask someone else about traveling to a place or a society and culture, since your podcast talks about society and culture, what's one question that you could get a great feel for that culture or society just by asking one thing? Like if you're traveling somewhere, what do you think to yourself before you go there about how to figure out if it's a place you want to go?
Hmm.
That's a long
What's
question.
your prison what's your prison system? How do you treat your prisoners? How do you treat your elderly? You can tell a lot about a nation by the way they treat these two groups. Is
It's a
it
good one.
is it bad? Do you have a bad prison system? Do you really maltreat the people who did bad things to society? Do you want to see the punishment? You know? What do you do with people who are not as productive anymore, who did
Mm.
their thing and now you don't really need them anymore except for votes? How do you treat these two groups of people? That tells me a lot about a nation and a lot about the mindset.
Okay. That's good. I like that. My
Yeah.
question that I have for that is, how do you treat women? And that doesn't mean you're not interested in
Hmm.
how anyone else is treated. That just means if you're not treating women well, you're probably not treating other people well too. And it doesn't mean in a country that treats women poorly that they don't treat everyone else poorly too. But can they get can a lady go to school? Can they
Yeah,
have a
well,
job? Can they drive a car? Things like that.
it shows they have a preference for something else as opposed to economic prosperity. Because when you deny like half of the population the privilege of getting educated and benefiting to society by opening companies and ordering more employment and more innovation and you know you are literally denying the prosperity of the economy of the country. Yeah, that really says something about you. And maybe you put it after religion, maybe you put it after tradition, but there's facts. And the fact of the matter is, if you discriminate against half of the population, your country is not going to be as great economically, and it's going to impact everyone else as well, which is what you said basically. So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I'm
Mm.
going to add the prison and elderly one to my repertoire of considerations before I go to a country. But
All right, I'm gonna
yeah,
add the women question.
yeah, if you have to cover your face, maybe you don't want to go there.
Actually, I have been to Saudi Arabia. Look, we were partying and we were drinking. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah,
Saudi
it's
Arabia,
different when you're in a kingdom. That's hmm, when one person
yeah,
can say what happens to you, whether you don't have as many rights. The Magna Carta was nice.
yeah, yeah, true, true.
All right, I know you have a certain amount of time that you wanted to do the podcast. I had some other questions, so maybe in the future we get together again and talk about the specifics of podcasting. Since this show is mainly about creativity, that I think people like to see the ins and outs of how you pick advertising, how you go about it, how you do your editing, and then show prep, like from the first getting a guest and then
Mm.
the day before, the 15 minutes before, how you organize your thoughts, get into the zone. But maybe we can talk about all
Mm,
those things another time.
I'm totally up for it. And maybe one general advice for podcasters, I would say invite people who you disagree with dramatically. I'm having like on my next podcast, I'm gonna have a guy who is a chauvinist. Um,
Hmm.
he is practicing polyamory. Basically believes that women should be in a kitchen. And I looked at his videos. I was listening to him, and I didn't say, "Gosh, what a prick." I said, let me talk to this guy." And I'm gonna be talking to him with no agenda. I'm not gonna try to win any arguments. I'm not. I'm really not going to. I'm just curious. Like, where does it come from? Let's exchange our opinions and let's agree to disagree. I'm really gonna be focused on listening more than anything else, and I'm gonna try to see his perspective because you know we all have some fundamental values like peace, love, mm, prosperity, and we just have different ways of going about it. And like I've never had someone who I would disagree with on that many fundamental levels. It's just that these cherries on top that we disagree on. And so anyway, pick these type of guests. If you don't want to, like, if you really don't like this person and you don't want to talk to them, then that's probably your next guest. It's very compelling. People love it. You're gonna get your views, no worries. Although the most important thing is to educate the audience and to educate yourself. But yeah, do that. Do that. Talk to people you disagree with. I wish I did more of that, honestly. Yeah, that would be another one of my piece of advice.
Hmm. It's good stuff. How
Yeah.
can people follow along with what you're doing on social media?
Well, it's Captainese everywhere. Captainese on YouTube, Captainese on Facebook. Actually, just I mean, I'm basically mostly on YouTube, right? I'm gonna go on Rumble, but YouTube and Spotify. Yeah.
Okay. I have your links for Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram, and they'll be in the show notes. And if anybody wants to get the direct link, and then
Awesome. Awesome.
maybe in the future
Awesome.
we'll discuss some more creativity and controversy.
Awesome. Well, and hey, and if you need like any help with anything that you're doing, if you need any, I don't know, maybe like an insight of what's best, how to like get guests or maybe sponsors or something like that, just reach out to me, I'm not like an expert, but if I have anything that's helpful, I'm gonna share it with you. Absolutely.
Nice. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for
And I
your.
think you're and I just want to say just like because you really know what questions to ask. You seem to have I mean maybe I don't know if it's a talent, but some people just get it right away. And since you've been doing it since September, I think if you continue to do what you're doing, you have a very good equipment. Your background is really good. It's like basically very high level. Um, I think this is gonna really work out for you. Like if you plan on doing this full time, I think it's gonna be in no time flat, I assume.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of buzzwords in that praise. Thank you. I think I like your advice of talk to people that have different opinions than you. And then my other advice on that is how I look for guests. I don't shy away from people that don't I don't agree with or seemingly don't agree with, because I'm sure there are some things we do agree on. But I go when I look at guests, I'm trying to find somebody that I'd be interested in having a conversation with. So I think that's good too.
Hmm.
Some
Hmm.
people you don't agree with won't have a conversation with you. So that makes it difficult. So yeah.
That's true. That's true. And I've had some guests that I really wanted to have on the show, but they believed that I did have an agenda, where as a matter of fact I didn't. And they wanted like the whole list of questions. What exactly are we going to talk about? What will be the question exactly? And
Mm,
what type of answers do you expect? Dude, just come fucking talk to me, man. It's not that hard.
yeah.
So yeah, but hey, you reach out to 100 people, it's a numbers game, right? Maybe 50 are going to tell you to fuck off, maybe 20 are going to make an excuse, 10 will reschedule, and well, there's a couple of ones that will actually come on your podcast. So yeah, just reach out to guests all the time, and if you want any one of those who have been on my podcast, also let me know. um
Okay.
yeah.
Same for you then. I appreciate your
Awesome.
time. And I look forward to speaking with you again in the future and listening to your podcasts, especially the ones you talked about that are upcoming. So I'll
Deal.
talk
All
to
right,
you
thanks
on
so
the
much for
other
having me.
side. Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you on the other side of this.